तो हेलो गाइस, मैं हूँ आर्यन। आपका फिर से एक बार स्वागत है चैनल ABDS ऑफिशियल में। सो आज हम पढ़ेंगे क्लास 11th इकोनॉमिक्स चैप्टर 7 इंडियन इकोनॉमी। So choose the correct option. Railway was started in which year in India? 1853. In which year the Reserve Bank of India RBI was set up? 1935. According to Human Development Record of 2013, what was Indian per capita income? $5150. In 2014, which sector contributed the maximum to national income? Service. Which type of unemployment in India? Structural. In 2011, what percentage of population got employment in agricultural sector? 49%. Indian Railway stands at which rank in the largest railway network of the world? Fourth. According to census of 2011, what was the percentage of literate people in India? 73%. In 2011, what was the percentage of poor people in India? 22%. Which of the following is not a primary service? Import, export. Answer the following questions in one sentence. When was the Public Work Department set in India? In July 1854 by the British. When was banking started in India? In 1770 AD. Which civilization originated in ancient India? Indus Valley Civilization, which is also known as Harappa Civilization. How much was the employment in agriculture in India year 2011 and 12? 48.9%, or you can say 49%. Who prepared the Human Development Record? The Human Development Report Office of United Nations Development Program UNDP prepares the Human Development Record. Answer the following questions in short. What is meant by home charges? Payment burden over and above the huge salaries that the British used to draw from income earned from India. They were also paid a large sum as home charges to the British personnel in India. The home charges included expenses of the British administration, maintenance of the British Army, war expenses, pensions to retired British officers, and other expenses made by Britain for maintaining her colonies. These home charges were made of three components. They are interest payment for debts incurred in maintaining Indian colony, interest on the railway, civil and military charges. Second question. India is predominantly an agricultural nation. Explain the statement. Since ancient time, agriculture in India was quite prosperous. India used to and till date grow variety of crops. Indian villages produce several items of basic necessities like grain, vegetables, fruit, clothes, shoes, etc. Villages also involved in cattle rearing and dairy farming. All through the share of agricultural sector in employment has gradually declined, but still it is relatively higher. As per Human Development Record, during independence about 72% of the population was dependent on agriculture. This declined to 58% in 2001-2. As per the latest data of 2013-14, even today about 49% of our population is dependent on agriculture. Hence, we can say that India is predominantly an agricultural nation. Third question. State the export items in ancient India. Export items of India are spices, wheat, sugar, indigo, opium, sesame oil, cotton, parrot, live animal and animal products such as hides, skin, furs, horns, tortoise, shells, peels, sparrows, corns, crystals, lapis, lazuli, granites, tortoise and copper, etc. Answer the following questions in brief points. Write a short note on ancient India. Indian civilization has emerged from the influence of Aryans and Indus Valley civilization. Indus Valley civilization is also known as Harappan civilization, and it influenced the ancient India. The remains of this civilization were first found at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. In Gujarat, we can find its remains at Lothal and Dholavira. From this civilization, one can obtain evidence of the beautiful organization, prosperity, wonderful urban planning and development that existed in India. India was quite famous for cloth, mulsin, jute, indigo, etc. that is produced with the arrival of the British. India learned tea plantation too. Today, India is one of the biggest tea producer and exporter. Thus, before the British rule, India was quite rich in agriculture, industry, and civilization. Write a short note on progress of railway in India. The British established the railway infrastructure in India. The first rail ran in India between Boribandar, presently CST, in Mumbai, and Thane on 16th of April in 1853. By 1947, that is when India became independent, India's rail network spread to 53,000 km and spread lakhs 68 lakhs people. Explain the use to buy and export cotton from India as cheap rates to England, and after manufacturing clothes from same cotton used to import and sell those clothes in India and earn huge profits. Thus, India's raw material were exported so that British industries could thrive at the cost of Indian industry. Describe the basic utilities of India. Improvement in basic primary utilities. India has shown significant improvement in providing various in the urban as well as in the rural area. These are discussed below. First, irrigation. In 1950-51, only 22.6 million hectares of land across India used to get irrigation facility. This increased 63 million hectares, that is 45% of the total agricultural land by 2030-40. Second, literacy. In 1950s, there were 20 universities and 500 colleges. This increased to 719 universities and 25,000 colleges by 2013 and 14. This indicates that higher education increased considerably in India. Third one, in 1950-51, in India used to generate around 2300 megawatt electricity. This increased to 2,43,000 megawatt in 11 or 12. Road network. Today, India falls among the list of countries with longest road network. India has approximately 48.6 lakh kilometers of concrete roads. Fifth one, railway. Today, India railway network is the fourth largest in the world with a length of 65 kilometers. Write note on share of the various sectors in national income. Changing share of various sectors in national income and unemployment. A less developed nation major income comes from agricultural. As a nation develops, the contribution of various sectors in national income and employment changes. Under such conditions, the contribution of industrial and service sector in employment and hence the national income increases compared to agricultural sector. People's dependency on agriculture reduces. Growth in industrial sector improves technology and increases capital. This generates more employment in the industrial sector and service sector rather than agriculture. Share of various sectors in national income. Agricultural and allied activities. In 1950, this is 53.1%. In 1990 and 91, 29.6%. 2001, 22.3%. 2014 and 15 17.6%, and industries in 1950-51 is 16.6, 1990-91 is 27.7, and 2001 27.3, 2014 and 15 29.7. Service excluding construction in 1950-51 30.3, 1990-91 42.7, 2001 50.4, 2014-15 52.7. This table is you have to draw. And the next point, from the data we can conclude that post independence the share of agriculture in national income (NI) has decreased over the years, and that was industrial and services sectors has increased. Answer the following questions in detail. Explain the characteristics of India as a developing country. Characteristics of India as a developing economy. All through India progresses has been slow. It cannot be considered as a less developed country. Indian economy shows several characteristics of progressing economy. Some of that are discussed below. Growth rate. The growth rate of the economy, especially after LPG, that is the policy of liberalization, privatization and globalization in 1991 has increased. During the period between 1950 and 1990, the average annual growth rate was around 3.5, but after the economic reforms of 1991 through the LPG, the average annual growth rate has remained about 6.8%, which is an important achievement. After 12-13, the growth rate had slowed down. In 2014, the average annual growth rate was less than 5%. In 1959-51, the net national product as factor cost, that is NNPEFC, at constant rise level was rupees 2,69,724 crores. It increased to 87,51,834 crores in the year 2013-14. Thus, in a period of 63 years, the NNP has grown up by 18 times. Changing share of various sectors in national income and employment. A less developed nation major income comes in agriculture. As a nation develops, the contribution of various sectors in income and employment changes. Under such conditions, the contribution of industrial and service sectors in employment and hence national income increases compared to agricultural sector. People dependency on agriculture reduces growth in industrial sector, improves technology and increases capital. This generates more employment in the industrial sector and service sector rather than agriculture. Share of various sectors in national economy. Agriculture and allied activities 1950-51 53.1, 1990-91 29.6, 2001 22.3, 2014-15 17.6. Industries 16.6, 27.7, 27.3, 29.7. Services 30.3, 42.7, 50.4, 52.7. From the data we conclude that the post-independence the share of agriculture in the national income (NI) has decreased over the years and that industrial and services sectors has increased. Third one, per capita income. In 1950-51, the per capita income of India (PCI) at constant prices was rupees 7,114. It increased to 69,959 in 2013-14. Thus, in a period of 63 years, PCI increased by approximately 5.6 times. Between 1950-51 and 1990-91, PCI increased by about 1.6%, while after 91 it increased by 5.5%. Level of employment. In India, employment is studied in three sectors. They are Primary sectors. These sectors include agriculture and allied activities, dairy farming, and animal husbandry. Second, industrial sector. All activities that consist of production such as manufacturing, construction, mining, curing, etc. included in the service sector. Then C, service sector. Service sector includes all activities related to trade, transport, information and broadcasting, health, education, etc. Share of various sectors in employment. Primary and agricultural sector 50-51, 52.7, 51.2.1. Then 1991 66.9, then 2001 56.7, then 2011 12 48.9%. Secondary or industrial sector 10.6, 12.7, 18.7, 18.1, 24.2. Territory services 17.3, 20.4, 25.2, 26.9. From the table, it can be seen that primary sector provided highest employment among all the sectors in 1950-51. This reduced drastically by 2011-12 with the increased contribution of industries and service sector. Thus, it can be seen that from the year 1951 to 2011-12, the employment largely shifted from primary sector to industrial and service sectors. And fifth, improvement in basic primary duties. India has shown significant improvement in providing various utilities in the urban as well as in rural areas. These are discussed below. A. Irrigation. In 1950-51, only 22.6 million hectares of the land across India used to get irrigation facilities. This increased to 63 million hectares, that is 45 of the total agricultural land by 2012-13. B. Literacy. In 1950 there were 20 universities and 500 colleges. This increased to 719 universities and 35,000 colleges by 2013-14. This indicates that the higher education increased considerably in India. See, electricity. In 1950-51, India used to generate around 2300 megawatt electricity. This increased to 2,43,000 megawatt in 2011-12. Road network. Today, India falls among the list of countries with the longest road network. India was approximately 48.6 km of concrete road today. And e-railway. Today, Indian railway network is the fourth largest in the world with a length of 65,000 km. Conclusion. Overall, India is progressing fast and is emerging as a country having strong economy. On the bigger side, India's per capita consumption of essential commodities and average life expectancy has increased. We are progressing in area of science, research and development and so on. As per the International Comparison Program (ICP) initiated by the World Bank in 2011, India was identified as the third largest country after USA and China. In 2005, India was at 10th position. Second question, specify the statement of industries of ancient India. Agriculture in India was quite prosperous. India was used to grow variety of crops. Indian villages were self-related and basic necessities like grains, vegetables, fruits, clothes, shoes, etc. were produced in the villages itself. Villagers also used to practice cattle farming. Thus, villages' life was happy and economy prosperous. Industries. As per historian Rai Chaudhary, before 19th century, India was an important manufacturing center for some items. India was famous for cotton, jute, muslin, wool, idols, indigo, terracotta, earthenware, etc. Some of these goods were even exported. Then question third. Explain the statement of Indian economy before independence. During the British rule, Indian economy got ruined and people became poor. There were several negative and some positive aspects of British rule in India. They are discussed below. Positive aspects. Railway. The British established the railway infrastructure in India. The first rail ran in between Boribandar, presently CST, in Mumbai, and Thane on 16th of April 1853. By 1947, that is when India became independent, India's rail network spread to 53,000 kilometers and served 68 lakhs people. Second, roadway. The British created a good network of roadways in India. They set up Public Works Department (PWD). PWD used to raise several important and basic utilities needed by a city or town. By the end of the 19th century, India's roads were spread to 2,78,420 kilometers. This increased to 4,47,105 by 1943. 32% of these roads were concrete Pakka road and 68 were Kacha roads. Banks in India. Private banks started in 1770 AD. By 1946 AD, there were more than 700 banks in India. The Reserve Bank of India (RBI), which is the apex bank today, was set up in 1935. Social structure. Certain wrong social practices that existed in India, such as prevention of female infanticide, sati pratha, etc., were abolished during the British rule. B. Negative aspects. First, agriculture. Agriculture in India suffered from low revenues, zamindari, landlordship system, and cruel acts of the British. The poor farmers were exploited in several ways and they became poorer. For example, when industrial revolution began in Britain, the British needed indigo for their textile industry, so they forced Indian farmers grow more indigo. However, if farmers took a loan to grow indigo and incurred loss, the British government neither helped them nor waived off their loans. This way, the farmers started getting suppressed under the burden of debts. Land revenues. The East India Company got the right to collect land revenues from Indian kings. With this, they also got right to collect land revenues from farmers who owned lands. Later, the British started collecting land revenues from the farmer via the zamindars. The ex-British punished the farmers who failed to give revenues by confiscating their land, charging fines, and so on. Land revenues were as high as half of the produce of farmers. All this ruined the agricultural economy of India and made it poorer. High rates of tax. As per a calculation made by Dadabhai Nagorji in 1876, the rich contributed only 8% of the national income as taxes, while the poorer Indians contributed 15% of national incomes as taxes. High rates of excise and customs. The British collected high excise on matchsticks, sugar, steel, silver, and all such commodities. Though salt was easily available and produced in India, the British termed its production illegal. Then they monopolized salt trade, important salt to India by charging high custom duties and made it an expensive commodity for poor Indians. To suppress the Indian cotton industry, the British levied high custom duty of up to 15% on cotton cloth exported from India. On the other hand, the British imported the cotton cloth from Manchester, England, and a much lower import duty on 2.5%. The British used to buy and export cotton from India at cheap rates to England and after manufacturing clothes from same cotton used to import and sell clothes in India and earn huge profit. Thus, India's raw material exported so that British industries could thrive at the cost of Indian industry. Fifth, the period from 1750 to 1830 was the period of industrial revolution. The West. In West. Also during this period the East Indian Company started establishing its rule in India. By 1858 it established its rule completely. Due to unjust policies of the British government, the Indian investors had lost their confidence. Due to these reasons, the Indian industries did not develop much. Our industries produce only few light and consumer goods. We did not have heavy or basic industries that could produce machines, engineering, equipment, heavy chemical and other key products. Sixth, economic exploitation. The British adopted policies to ruin Indian economy and fill its own pockets and industries. As a result, Indian resources and agriculture were ruined. Under the heavy burden of taxes and revenues, the cruel and unjust policies. 7th, the East Indian Company used to buy goods from Indian artisans at 15% to 40% lower prices and sold them in the world at higher prices. This way they exploited Indian artisans and made high profits. Moreover, after the British government rule was set up, the British started selling goods manufactured in England at quite cheap rates in India. This ruined as small scale industries of India. 8.1 Investment pattern. The British invested only in those of India which is benefited Britain. For example, they created railways and roadways to move raw material and goods for their industry. They invested in education to educate Indians so that such educated Indians could run the British administration. On the other hand, they did not allow Indians to obtain education in science and technological fields to restrict Indians' growth. They needed civil engineers for public workers department in India and in Britain and doctors for their treatment in India. So they started colleges for medicine and civil engineering in India for their own benefit. Thus, the investment pattern of the British was very selfish and they invested only in selected areas that could benefited her. Payment burden. Over and above the huge salaries that the British used to draw from income earned from India, they were also paid a large sum of home charges to the British personally in change. The home charges included expenses of the British administration, maintenance of the British army, war expenses, pensions to retired officers and other expenses made by Britain for maintaining her colonies. These home charges were made of three components. They are interest payment of debt incurred in maintaining Indian colony, interest on the railway, civil and military charges. Conclusion: the British ruined the healthy and prosperous Indian agriculture and economy and made Indian a very poor country. It came to India for trade but strictly did not those activities which benefited only the British. Question 4. Explain the statement of Indian economy after independence. Indian economy after independence. After the British rule, India was ruined economically post independence. There were several major economic changes before India. Today, India exhibits characteristics of a developing country with some areas having lesser development and some showing much development. Overall, in the current times, India can term as a mixture of less developed as well as developing country. India's post-independence economy is discussed below. Per capita income. According to Human Development Report, the per capita income of India is in 2013 and purchasing power parity was $5,150. This was not only lower than that of developing countries but also lower than many developing countries like China with per capita income of $2 11,477, and Sri Lanka with per capita income of 9,250. Agriculture. India has always been an agrarian country. All through the share of agricultural sector in employment has gradually declined, but still it is relatively higher. India's higher agricultural development and lesser development of industries and service sector has resulted in lower economic development. Developed nations have lesser percentage employment in agriculture and higher in the industrial and service sectors. As per the Human Development Report, during independence of 72%, about 72% of the population was dependent on agriculture. This declined to 58% in 2001 or 2 and 14 to 49% in 2013-14. Third, independence. Post-independent industries. Post-industry independence, India developed well in industrial sector. The contribution of industrial sector in employment and national income has increased over time. Contribution in employment. In 1950-51, the share of industries in employment was 10.6%. This increased to 18.2% in 2001 and further to 24.3% in 2011 and 12. Contribution in national income. The 1950-51, the share of industries in national income was 16.6. This increased to 26% in 2013-14. Source: CSO, that is Central Statistical Organization. Today, two-thirds of the export earnings are earned from the industrial sector. Although the industrial sector is progressing, India cannot be called a completely industrialized nation. Fourth, service sector. Contribution in employment. In 1951, the share of service sector in employment was 17.3%. This increased to 25.2% in 2011 and further to 27.11% in 2011 and 12. Contribution in national income. In 1951, the share of service sector in national income was 30.3%. This increased to 38% in 1980-81, 50.4% in 2001, the further to 52% 7 in 2014-15. From such a rapid increasing share of service sector, we can say that India is moving fast on the path of growth and development. Population growth. The growth rate of population in India is one of the reason for its lesser development. After independence, population in India has grown annually by 1.5%, which means there is population explosion in India. In 1991, the population of India was 23.84 crores. It increased to 36.1 crores in 1951 and 102.7 crores in 2001 and further to 121.2 crores in 2011. Such higher growth rates of population has always remained a matter of concern for Indian development. Sixth, poverty. One of the main characteristics of Indian economy is a very high level of absolute poverty. Through percentage of population living poverty line has declined. Over years it is still quite high. In 1973-74, about 54.9% of population lived below poverty line. It then declined to 45.3% in 1993 to 37.2% in 2004 and 5 and further to 21.9% in 2011 and 12. Seventh, unemployment. India has been facing a surge program of structural unemployment. Structural unemployment refers to a form of unemployment caused by a mismatch between the skills that workers in the economy have and the skills demanded by employers. In 1951, 33 lakh people were unemployment. In 1999-2000, 7.31 of the total population was unemployed. This increased to 8.2% in 2004-05. Source: NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization. The good side is that the unemployment decreased to 6.6% in 2009 and 10 and further to 5.6 in 2011-12. The propagation of discussed unemployment is higher in rural areas. Discussed unemployment cannot be exactly measured. Human development, average life expectancy, literacy, gender ratio, infant mortality rate, etc. Various index that measure the human development. On the studying this index, one can see that India stands at a lower rank in human development. One such index is the Human Development Index (HDI). India's HDI in 2000 was 0.465, in 2010 was 0.5647, in 2012 was 0.554, and in 2013 was 0.586. These measures on the HDI are very low. In 2013, India's rank was the 136th in a list of 187 countries, which confirms that India's HDI is very low.